I'm supposed to kill this guy. I'm supposed to dominate this guy. And from that point on, I did.
There's no doubt that revenge might be one of the most refreshing, satisfying feelings ever, especially if you've been really pissed off. And for sure, Michael Jordan has had many such experiences. If you try to provoke him in any way there, he transforms and turns into a monster and will definitely make you regret it. So here I present to you the top best Michael Jordan revenge stories. Number 4. New York Knicks versus Chicago Bulls. Contrary to popular beliefs on Michael, he does have the ability to get along with his opponents. Well, it didn't feel like being intense all the time. I mean, playing golf was his go-to activity when he was off the court, and did not mind if a player wanted to tag along. But that hospitality and good manners were not fooling Jeff Van Gundy. Van Gundy said that Michael Jordan would befriend his opponent and make them think that he actually is a nice guy just to gain a competitive advantage. In an interview, he said his way is to soften them up, make them feel like he cares about them, and then goes out and physically tries to destroy them. Well, if Van Gundy thought he could go away without any consequences, he was wrong. He made those comments before his New York Knicks were about to play the Chicago Bulls, and the next morning, his quotes were all over the Chicago newspaper. And that's when Jordan saw them, and that only gave him extra motivation to go out and destroy them. It was January 21st, 1997, Knicks visit Chicago. What? And they were playing in their city? Yep, as I thought, this is going to be really bad for them. Once the ball was thrown up in the air, it was time for some sweet revenge where Jordan had a personal issue with Van Gundy. Jordan was cursing and screaming at Van Gundy the entire game. Can you imagine? Jordan finished the game with 51 points, doing exactly what he planned to do. He was unstoppable, but he wasn't yet finished. Immediately after the game, he went out to find Van Gundy to continue cursing at him. Then Van Gundy tried to back out what he said in an interview after the game by saying, "I didn't say anything about him this week." Well, I guess he regretted that quickly, but can anyone blame him though? Number 3. Beef with Van Gundy. Now, you would think that George Karl would learn from Van Gundy's mistake, considering this matchup was only 1 week after the Knicks game. George Karl said Michael Jordan was playing as if he didn't want to get hurt, and when they asked Jordan about that, he answered by saying that he was just playing mind games on him. He basically called him a jump shooter in order to avoid getting hurt. But how is that bad, you say? Well, athletes take that as an offense, As he went on to say that Jordan changed his game because he can no longer fly to the basket for a dunk, and he was holding back to protect himself while he's getting older in age. Michael quickly responded by saying, "I'm not scared to go anywhere in the court. When teams give me the jump shot, I'll take it. If they take away the lanes, I'll go for the jump shot." As Ron Harper had advice for Karl, as he said, "If I were the coach, I'd be quiet to say anything about Michael's game and that it's ridiculous." And even though he responded verbally, we all know he wasn't finished with them on the field. It was February 1st, 1997, 8 months after the Bulls defeated Seattle in the 1996 finals, and right out of the gate, instead of falling for the trap and driving to the basket like Coach Karl baited and wanted, Jordan did the exact same thing Karl was talking about, shooting multiple jump shots. He was on fire, even shooting a half-court shot right in front of George Karl. Isn't that refreshing? I don't know about you, but I feel great for him. Jordan continued to dominate with his jump shots all night long, making Coach Karl feel stupid for ever opening his mouth. Eventually, it was getting ridiculous. Jordan could not be stopped as he ultimately ended up the game with 45 points. After the game, an interviewer asked him if what Karl said about him not wanting to get hurt was a motivation for him. He responded by saying Karl wanted him to fall in his hole, but he said that he didn't mind and would take and score any jump shot he had without caring to get hurt. Harper even said, "I'm surprised that coaches never learn. Every time they say something about Michael, it hurts their team." Number 2. New Jersey Nets with John Calipari. The next coach on the list was John Calipari, where he actually did learn to keep quiet. He saw what happened with the last 2 coaches and didn't want anything near that. The first opponent for the Nets in the 1998 playoffs was the Chicago Bulls. The first 2 series of games were close, but Chicago still found a way to finish them with a victory. and they only needed one more game to sweep the Nets in a 5-series game of best 3 of 5. New Jersey went into Game 3 believing that they had a great chance to win this one, considering they were so close to winning the previous 2. But when you're playing against a man that will literally create scenarios in his head to give him the power he needs to win, you're probably going to face trouble. Well, Coach Calipari didn't particularly do anything wrong. He didn't say a single word to or about Jordan, but he didn't even have to. For Jordan, it was the way Calipari coached. Jordan said that he was really annoyed with Calipari always screaming at his players up and down the court, and he was overdoing it. Well, now Jordan found the scenario and just went with it. Michael finished off the Nets with a total of 38 points. And after the game, Calipari responded in regard to Jordan's death stare he gave in the second game series when Calipari was shouting at his players. He said, "I didn't stare back. There's one thing I wouldn't do as a coach. Say anything to Michael Jordan. Not even a word." As he added that if he wants to stare at him, he's not going to say any word about him. Well, I guess with Jordan, no matter how safe you think you are, you never really are. Number 1. Utah with Bryant Russell. This one was literally asking for it. It was 1994, during Michael Jordan's baseball days. Bryant Russell, who was a member of the Utah Jazz, was preparing to play the Chicago Bulls in an upcoming game. So in the night before the game, he went to the gym where he saw Michael Jordan with his baseball trainer and thought it was the perfect opportunity to introduce himself. So he went up to Jordan and said, "Why did you quit? I really wanted to get the chance to guard you and defend you because I know I can stop you." Where Jordan just laughed it off and acted normally, and that he wasn't even bothered. But I think, well, we all know now. Fast forward to 1996, Jordan was back in the league, and when he played Utah, he was well aware that Russell was going to be right there before the start. He went to Russell and said, "Remember back in 94? You're about to get your chance." He destroyed and humiliated him, and every time they would go against each other, Jordan would make an extra effort to defeat him, as he always did in their upcoming games even 6 years later. He even mentioned him in his famous Hall of Fame speech, where he said, "Believe me, I relish from this point and from this day forward, if I ever see him in shorts, I'm coming at him." Where Russell took that as a challenge. But was there anything he could have done at this point? I think not. Michael is not the regular player that would just go out and play a normal game with nothing previously planned. He is a man with goals, and those goals are destroying anyone who would do even the simplest of things to annoy him. Seems like an interesting and unusual player, don't you think? Well, maybe that's why he's a legend, don't you think? Let us know in the comments section below. This is it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you still haven't for crazy videos. Stay tuned and see you next time.